YouTube, what is going on, guys? It is yours truly, the Miracle Man, back bringing you part 2 of our Harry Potter 100% run. Today we're going through the rest of the Harry Potter franchise. We're going to talk about some of the platinums that I got. We're going to talk about what the 100% was like for these games. And we're going to talk about, of course, that book to movie comparison and why I am so excited for the upcoming game. Only 5 days away now, Hogwarts Legacy. But without further ado, guys, I don't want to waste any time with this video, so let's go ahead and jump right into the first two games, Lego Harry Potter Years 1 through 4 and Lego Harry Potter Years 5 through 7. So I decided to talk about both these games at the same time because they're essentially the same game and they're both in that Lego style kind of feel. And nothing much really changes between the first game and the second game, so it doesn't really warrant its own review for each game. Now, outside of Lego Star Wars and Lego Indiana Jones, Lego Harry Potter was one of Lego's biggest properties back in the day and one of the games that I was most excited for. So when these games were announced, I was super excited to get my hands on them, and I was really excited to get the platinum for both of these games when they came out. That I not only did it for the PS3 versions, but I did it when they were re-released on PS4 as well. There's not really much to say about these games though, because if you like the Harry Potter films, you're gonna love these games. It's just the Harry Potter movies slash books with the Lego aesthetic and humor thrown in there. And this is where I gotta plead something to Lego. Lego, I know you guys just got done with Skywalker Saga, but please, all I'm asking for is a brand new Lego Harry Potter game. Years 1 through 7, reimagined just like Star Wars was, would absolutely blow my mind. And with Warner Brothers expanding the universe, this is the perfect time to do this. Lego, please answer my prayers, please. However, from the movie to game comparison here, like I said, if you've watched the movies or read the books, you are going to enjoy these games. They follow them really closely, and there's little hidden secrets throughout. And you know, with Lego games you never really have this issue, but they hit all the big points in each game. There's 6 levels per game, but they hit them all. You got the Forbidden Forest in year 1, Harry's first visit to Diagon Alley, the battle with Voldemort. You have the chess scene, and then in year 2 you have Aragog, the battle of the Basilisk, you know, etc. And this goes on for the rest of the franchise as well. So I really didn't find myself missing much in the movie aspect when I played these games because they hit all the points to an absolute T with these movies. And the final bosses, man, they hit. Not only are some of these fights funny as hell with the objects that you use to take out said enemies in these fights, but they are absolutely incredible. I mean, the fight with Voldemort is just aesthetically pleasing. The fight with the Basilisk is crazy. It's all over the place. The fight with the Dementors and Prisoner of Azkaban. And like I said, this goes on for the rest of the franchise. I mean, you have the battle with Voldemort and Dumbledore in year 5. You got Bellatrix versus Molly and Harry Potter versus Voldemort in part 2. Like I said, you got Malfoy Manor in part 1. And then, of course, the Battle of the Astronomy Tower and the Half-Blood Prince. All points are hit here, including the final bosses. They're all incredibly well done, and I could not have asked for better for them. So as I've already mentioned earlier, I don't really want to go too much in depth with the platinums on these games because they're pretty old games, and there's not really much more I can add to 10, 12-year-old games. But yes, I did platinum both Lego Harry Potter Year 1 through 4 and 5 through 7 on both PlayStation 3 and PS4. Both back in the day, and for this video I did go and get 100% again. I didn't do all the side trophies and stuff because some of them were just tedious and don't really add much if you already have the trophy. But the story is only half this game. I want to say each of these Lego games is half story, half open world. Half of it is focused on the story part of it, where you're playing through the 4 years that they give you in each said game. And then, of course, you have the 50% that is focused on the exploration of Hogwarts itself. And this is where the open world aspect in these games come in, and it's done really well for Lego games, but it also shows off a little bit of that pre-Hogwarts Legacy vibe. And it was at the time as close to this game as we were going to get before Hogwarts Legacy came out. This was it. This was the game right here. And they show all kinds of stuff from Main Street in London all the way down to Hagrid's hut, and even stuff like the Quidditch pitch and Dumbledore's office, and the Astronomy Tower, of course, is included as well. If you're going through this without a guide, you will be exploring Hogwarts a lot because there is a lot of hidden gold bricks and house crests, etc. And they're all over the castle, and it's just so much fun to explore and to get everything that even going through this game for a third time, I did not find myself getting tired at all. So with this game, they had the house crest, which I thought was really cool. In each level throughout both games, there's going to be a house crest hidden from each individual house. Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin, making the full crest if you're able to find all 4 throughout the levels. And also all throughout Hogwarts and the levels, you will find what are known as students in peril. These are students that are going to require your help. They could be trapped in situations. They could be being harassed by another student. These can range from anything and everything in this game. And it is so much fun to save each individual person because, of course, after you save each person, you will get a gold brick that adds to your total. Which, of course, brings us to the secret ending of these games. And, of course, brings us to the secret ending of these games. And, unfortunately, there is not one for years 5 through 7. But years 1 through 4, in my opinion, might have one of the best secret endings in all of these Harry Potter games. This level is focused all around Voldemort and a Death Eater trying to find Peter Pettigrew to get the information out of him to kill James and Lily Potter. But even though this secret ending is not the best in the entire franchise, it's still extremely well, and I will say it is the second best out of all the Harry Potter games, and it doesn't even come close. But I do give Harry Potter Lego a huge rating on the list because, like I said, it gave those original Hogwarts Legacy vibes. You have the open world aspect. Everything in this game is just absolutely fun, great. Everything in this game is so much fun to collect, to fight. It's great. And even in years 5 through 7, they added a great dueling mechanic that made the game even more fun. So it gives it a plus for that as well. Both of these games on the list are going to get a 10 out of 10. This is top tier Harry Potter right here, and Lego continues to not miss with these games. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump right on into the next game, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Now, this is going to be part 2 of 3 of this video because something that was really weird about each one of these games when I talked about them is that each 2 of the games that I played were essentially the exact same game as the last. I'll talk about that more later, but I'm going to be pairing Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince together because, yes, they are almost essentially the same game. So, surprisingly, my history with this game was actually very lackluster before I did this video because I never played it before this. My love for the video game franchise ended with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and I never touched another Harry Potter game until the Lego games came out. So all the movie games after that, I never touched when they originally came out. So going back to Order of the Phoenix in this video, it was actually really interesting because I knew nothing going into this. And I am very happy to say that just like the movie, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix game is one of, if not my favorite Harry Potter game, and it was one of my favorite games in this run. And the same goes for Half-Blood Prince. I didn't touch this game at all, and I enjoyed it just as much as Order of the Phoenix. It really gave me those old Chamber of Secrets vibes with the spell casting and the open world aspect alike. The open world in this aspect is fantastic. It centers completely around Hogwarts, but the Hogwarts castle itself is huge. The only thing that I will say is different between the Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince from what I noticed is that in Order of the Phoenix, it doesn't look like there's many students walking around the castle as often, whereas in Half-Blood Prince, they definitely added a lot more students and a lot more models to make it seem like Hogwarts was an actual school. It really felt bare in terms of the model aspect and the character aspect. There just didn't seem like there was enough students walking around Hogwarts like there was in the films and talked about in the books. But in Half-Blood Prince, they really hit that nail on the head, and you can definitely see more students walking around. However, unfortunately, this is the part of the franchise in the video game side where they started focusing more on the story over the gameplay. You can't really see it much in these games because I actually enjoyed a lot of the gameplay aspects in these games, but in the next 2 Harry Potter games, you'll definitely see what I'm talking about, where the gameplay just stopped mattering for them, and it was more about, can we get the story beats in? So these games by far are definitely not the longest in the franchise, and I never thought I'd say this, but it actually made me miss the sneaking sections in Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban because they added more to the story and added more to the runtime of each game. And it made me miss it when I finished the game so quick. I actually found myself wanting to go back and see if there was more. When I found out there wasn't, I was actually a little disappointed. Where this game really shined for me was the spell casting and the new dueling club feature. I talked about the Dueling Club a little bit in the Prisoner of Azkaban in the last video, as it was an early rendition of this Dueling Club. However, in Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince, they really tone it down and they nail it on the head. It is a one-on-one fight between you and another student, and each one of you guys is based on the spell casting. But you also have to remember that there's another guy on the other end that is trying to shoot the spells back at you. So you have to dodge and you have to cast at the same time. And for the first time ever, you can actually cast spells while you're on the move. I loved this mechanic, and it really made dueling a lot of fun in both of these games, a lot more in the Half-Blood Prince. With the Half-Blood Prince, they introduced the medal feature mechanic, which they tied to the trophy list. It's really more a status of honor if you're not going for the platinum, but if you're going to get the platinum for Half-Blood Prince, you're definitely going to need to get every single badge in the game. However, as for the book to movie comparisons, I already said they started focusing on story over gameplay for the later games. So for the rest of these games, I'm not going to talk about story, because from this moment on in the franchise, all they focused on was the story. So they weren't really missing much on that. But I will focus on the gameplay for the rest of the games after this point. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and I kind of wanted to wait to these two games in particular to talk about, was the casting choices for these video games. You didn't really notice it in the first few games because they tried to find people that were somewhat similar voices to Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson and Rupert Grint, to the point where, actually, fun fact, the voice actor for Harry Potter, I don't know if it was the PS1 or the PS2 version, he actually had to do voiceover lines for Daniel Radcliffe, because at the end of Sorcerer's Stone, Daniel Radcliffe's voice broke, meaning that his voices were too deep for a kid in some of the Sorcerer's Stone scenes, because in some scenes he would sound really, really high, and then in other scenes he would sound really, really low. So they had to actually bring the voice actor for the Philosopher's Stone video game to come in and finish those scenes for Daniel Radcliffe. Really started to hit me later on in these games when people like Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Ralph Fiennes, Tom Felton, Emma Watson, Miriam Margolyes, etc., did not come back for the video games. And the problem is that if you're going to focus on the story aspect over gameplay, which they definitely did later on, especially in the last two Harry Potter games, you need to have voice actors that are going to be able to nail down those scenes. And the characters that did it the best are the characters that they picked for the films. In this version, there is so many scenes where characters just look off, and the casting does not help when the voices just don't sound like them at all. And it's my only gripe with these two games, if I had to pick one, is the casting was just not the right call for whoever made the decision to not get the people from the movie involved in these games. Huge misstep for these two games, in my opinion. The last thing I want to add for this game is the Half-Blood Prince added two new gameplay mechanics that were not featured in Order of the Phoenix, with the addition of Slughorn coming back in the Half-Blood Prince to reveal, you know whose memories and stuff, what he told him. We're learning about the Horcruxes finally. This game really focuses on the potion making aspect of Harry being a good potion maker. Some of these potions are actually really difficult to make too, and if you're going for the platinum, you're going to need to 5-star every single potion, basically getting 5 stars for every single side thing as well, Quidditch, etc., Dueling Club, all that good stuff. Dueling is actually really, really easy to get 5 stars on. Quidditch is not that difficult. We'll talk about it later on, because I did actually have to do something in this video that I did not do the rest of the franchise, which is just blows my mind. We'll talk about that in a sec. The only other thing that was added in this game was the Quidditch aspect of things, and it's really fun. You play as the Seeker in each one of the matches. 3 is Harry and 1 is Ginny. In the final match, Harry actually gets detention from Professor Snape for fighting with Draco, so Ginny has to step in and be the Seeker for the final match to win Gryffindor the House Cup. Matches are extremely fun to play if you're just playing them on the side. However, if you're going for the platinum, this is where my rage came in for this game. So this is as good of a time as any to bring up how I had to record these videos. I actually had to use an RAC cable that was used as a splitter to go into my multi-SCART device that allowed me to record the footage that you're seeing on your screen now. This was to be expected as I use a 4K TV for my normal recording, so when I went back to the PlayStation 3 and went to an RAC device, even with a splitter to an HDMI, The picture still wasn't turning out the greatest. It didn't affect me in any of the other games too much. So running this platinum, I realized I had to get 5 stars in all 3 of the side stuff that you can do in the game. That being potion making, dueling, and the Quidditch. Potion making has, like I said, some difficult potions, but it's not nearly as difficult as the Quidditch sections. And of course, the dueling club stuff is actually really, really fun, so that one I didn't find myself having too much stress over, even if I fail the challenge. Some of the older games, like Harry Potter on the PlayStation 1, I could tell in the Forbidden Forest section, and even in Chamber of Secrets on the PlayStation 2, that they were a little bit darker than they could have been. And while this did cause me some issues, it didn't cause me enough problems to where it really made me rage. But in the Quidditch section, you're constantly flying into the sun, which was a constant issue for me because anytime I was flying at the sun in any of these games, I could barely see because of the multi-SCART device that I was using. So unfortunately, I had to disconnect my recording for this one and complete the rest of the challenges on my 4K TV with my HDMI input, because that was the only way that I could see the sky and see the sun and the rings to be able to 100% these games. And of course, the final thing is the rating for both of these games. Now, these games are going to have a different rating because I did enjoy some things more in Order of the Phoenix than I did in Half-Blood Prince. So we're going to give Order of the Phoenix a 7 out of 10. I think the models are struggling a little bit. I think that they could have more of them around the Hogwarts castle. The dueling isn't as good as it is in Half-Blood Prince. But the gameplay and the open world aspect of Hogwarts is very, very good. And the story, specifically the ending, is better in my opinion than how they did it in Half-Blood Prince. With the Half-Blood Prince, I really struggled on this one too, because there was a lot of stuff that was repetitive in this game, but there was a lot of things that I really enjoyed. The Quidditch stuff made me rage a little bit, so of course I had to take the rating down just for that personally. So I decided in total to give this game a 7.5 out of 10. I think this game is really good. It does everything better than Order of the Phoenix except for the story parts of it for some reason. And the spell casting in both games is really fun. A little tedious at times, but like I said, if you mess up, you hit the students, and it never ceases to be funny. I actually did it sometimes on purpose, I'm not gonna lie. And if you guys haven't found out what the theme of this video is yet, yes, they are going to be the same part because they are exactly the same game. So without further ado, let's jump into the final Harry Potter game, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Woo! Alright, where do we start with this one? Unfortunately, guys, I did not enjoy these games, and I know a lot of other people didn't enjoy these games either. So I'm not really going to spend too much time on these games because I just did not have any fun with them whatsoever. But I do think that they each deserve their own place on this list and they deserve to be talked about. But just know going into this that I did not enjoy these games. These games, unfortunately for me, the charm is just completely lost. There's no hidden secrets in either of these games. It's just straightforward to the end of the game. There's no open world exploration whatsoever. You go from level to level. Once the level ends, you cannot explore the level and go back to it. There is no Hogwarts to explore in either of these games. So in my opinion, the charm in these games is just non-existent and it's just not there. This is really sad considering that this is how the Harry Potter movie franchise went out in the video games, because I really, really expected more. Adding on to that, both of these games are extremely short. So the challenge aspect is gone from Harry Potter, the charm is gone from Harry Potter, and the gameplay is gone from Harry Potter. The stories are also extremely short. Not only playing on the hardest difficulty was it extremely easy, but the game was still extremely short. Even in the sections that I died on, the gameplay sections only took me about 4 hours for the story total. And the boss fights, they are so stupid easy. The only one that I had a little bit of a struggle with was in part 1 when you're trying to destroy the locket. That was the only issue that I had, and it's because I didn't realize that there was a tree in the background to hide behind, so I was just trying to avoid the snakes in the final part and the beams. That was my fault. I didn't see the tree because I'm a dumbass, but the tree is in a very obvious spot, so you should be able to see it, making the boss fight extremely easy for that one as well. However, all the part 2 fights are exactly the same, and they take place in exactly the same place. Man, I wish I was joking on this, but I'm not. There is a total of 5 bosses in this game, and they all take place in either the courtyard or the Great Hall. You have the fight with the Karos. You have the fight with the 2 Karos, which is just the easiest boss fight ever, even though it's the only boss fight where there's 2 of them in the Great Hall. Then right after, as Minerva, she sounds absolutely awful, by the way, jumps in to fight Snape in the Great Hall. And then as you're leaving the Great Hall, Hermione fights Fenrir Greyback in the courtyard. But as much as I hated these games, there are some things that I actually thought they did really, really well. The thing that I actually thought this game did really well and still hits really hard is the Dobby death. It still hurts. When he says, you know, I don't even want to say it. It's just when he says he's happy to be with his friend Harry Potter, that line just, it gets me every time. It just never ceases to not get me. And in this game, I was really concerned that they were going to ruin that scene. And for the most part, it's done pretty well. And Harry's voice actor in this scene actually does a decent job. So it's one of his better roles. And when he's screaming at Hermione, I actually felt his pain. So that was actually really good on his part for this scene. And the final scene that I was really concerned they were going to cut in part 1, but thankfully is still there, is the tale of the 3 brothers. Hermione still explains it pretty much in full, cuts out a few things, but nothing that's really major. I still think the book is the best version, and I still think the movie does it the best visually. However, the game still does this aspect very well, and it was the last thing in part 1 that I thought was done extremely well. Another thing I enjoyed with Deathly Hallows Part 2 is Harry's walk to Voldemort. When you're walking to Voldemort, you'll run into each one of the ghosts that he eventually runs into in the forest, and each one of them says the dialogue that is mentioned in the movie, and none of it is left out. You can definitely tell that they actually put a lot of care into this scene, and they wanted to make sure that everything that was said in the movie was said in this scene as well. So it was actually really fun and really surprising to see this scene. There's actually something in part 2 that I also really, really enjoyed, and that was at the end of the game. At the end of the game, if you beat the game on the second 2 or hardest difficulty, you will get the secret ending of Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2. But essentially what the secret ending of this game is it is a compilation of every single Harry Potter game in the franchise, from Sorcerer's Stone on the PlayStation 1 all the way to Deathly Hallows Part 2. I actually found myself getting really emotional during this scene because it was the end of my journey. I had done it. I had finished what I had set out to do. I had platinumed, 100%ed every single Harry Potter game. And it was really emotional to see essentially a compilation of everything that I had just done in the last 2 weeks. It was really fun to see. It was really a shock to me, and it really caught me off guard, to be honest. It was really sad, but I just really enjoyed it. I don't know, this is just nostalgia taking over, I think, but it was one of my favorite secret endings. I think it was my favorite secret ending, honestly. It was incredible to watch, and it was just kind of like a congratulations in a way. Like, congratulations, you did it. Here's all the games you just did. And so it kind of thought like they were doing it for us, for all the people that were 100%ing that game at this time. So it's cool if you went back and 100% of the game, because it really showed you a look back at every Harry Potter game before Legacy. So it was really cool to watch, and it's why it's my favorite secret ending in all of the Harry Potter games. Without further ado, guys, that brings us to the 100% of the final 2 Harry Potter games, Part 1 and Part 2, and the rating for both of these games. These were actually the 2 games that were the most difficult for me to rank, because I wanted my Harry Potter nostalgia to not be affected by either of these games, but I also didn't want to look at these games as if the Harry Potter stuff didn't matter and just look at it from a gameplay perspective. They're a mess, they're a mess, they're a mess, and it's a mess to give my rating because these games are a mess. And both of these games having a platinum also helped them a little bit as well, because if they didn't have a platinum, I'm not gonna lie, I would have given these games a 2 out of 10. But because the platinums were not the most difficult in the world, and they weren't terribly tedious for me, especially at the end of what was an incredibly long 100% run of Harry Potter, I will give these games a 3 out of 10. Wow. Here we are. The end of our journey. All in all, I think the earlier part of Harry Potter video game is an absolute cherished part of childhood history for us. but I think those games do show their age in some aspects. And the later games, even though they can still be seen pretty well graphically wise, the gameplay just wasn't there, and unfortunately they started caring for story more over the gameplay instead of focusing on both at the same time. Harry Potter is an absolute shining spot in my life. It has gotten me through so much trauma in my life, so many horrible things, so many dark moments in my life, and I think it's done that for a lot of people. And so even though I know I'm going to get some hate for giving some love to her, I do really need to give some love and shout out J.K. Rowling here, because without J.K. Rowling, there would be no Harry Potter. And so thank you, J.K., for making these books, for helping with these movies, for making this universe, because without this universe, there would be so many people that are going through it right now, or so many people that wouldn't have something that they enjoy in life. And I just want to thank JK for that specifically. And I hope that going back to this video shows you guys why the people that are so excited for Hogwarts Legacy, the people that want to stream it, the people that want to play it, we are playing it because we are fans of this franchise. We are playing this because of Harry Potter, because of the love that we have for it. If you guys didn't know, the team that is behind Hogwarts Legacy has been working extra hard at this game, and they have just released a brand new trailer today, and it is absolutely fantastic. They are mad working hard at this game like crazy, and JK has no involvement with this game whatsoever. This has been confirmed multiple times by the developers, by the company involved, and by J.K. Rowling herself. So please, guys, the people that are playing Hogwarts Legacy when it comes out, the people that enjoy this game, please, please, just let them enjoy this game. We've been waiting a long time for this game, and it's finally on the horizon. We are 5 days away, and I cannot tell you guys how excited I am for Hogwarts Legacy. I will be streaming all week long. I'm going to be getting little to no sleep every single day. We're going to try to be one of the first to platinum this game, and it's going to be an absolute blast. I hope to meet so many more of you guys there, and just to talk with so many of you guys and meet so many new people, because that's what I love doing. The next video on my list is going to be SpongeBob Cosmic Shake. So for those of you guys that are SpongeBob fans, and those of you guys that are excited for the sequel for Battle of Bikini Bottom, that video is going to be released on Saturday. And then after that, you guys know it's all about Hogwarts Legacy. And as always, this is your boy, the Miracle Man, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that can make sense. They hate